Okay. All right, so when we take the antiderivative of secant squared of x with respect to x, we get tangent x evaluated. By the way, you could draw it with the bars or just a line. So that's another way that you could write it. From x equals 0 to x equals pi over 4. And this is what I was talking about knowing calculus. But if you don't know the unit circle, it doesn't help, right? Because this is as far as we could evaluate that. So tangent of pi over 4 is 1. Minus tangent of 0 is 0 equals super easy. Think about that, though. We're saying that the area between the graph of tangent of x, think about what that graph looks like. Asymptote at pi over 2, negative pi over 2, something like that. We're saying that if we take the area from 0 to pi over 4, the area of that region is exactly 1. Crazy. Exactly 1. Exactly. All right, let's try this next one. What the heck is a derivative of the absolute value? That's not a formula I've seen before. You can go back to, well, do we know what the absolute value of x is? Sometimes. Neither one of you is wrong, but neither one of you is right all the time either. It's a piecewise function. It's x if x is greater than or equal to 0, or negative x. And again, I don't think of it as negative x. I think of it as the opposite of x if it was negative. So if it's negative, I take the opposite, making it positive, right? So it changes at 0. Well, we learned a property of integrals that says that the integral from a to b is equal to the integral from a to c plus the integral from c to b. We can have a stopping point somewhere between our bounds of integration, and that's perfectly fine. That's equal to the integral from negative 1 to 0 of the absolute value of x dx plus the integral from 0 to 2 of the absolute value of x dx, right? Well, we just said that between negative 1 and 0, the absolute value of x is equal to the opposite of x, negative x, right? And between 0 and 2, the absolute value of x is equal to x. Well, that's pretty easy to evaluate. The antiderivative of negative x is negative x squared over 2, negative 1 to 0. Plus the antiderivative of x is x squared over 2 from 0 to 2. So then I have 0 squared, negative 0 squared over 2, which is 0, minus negative 1 squared is 1 over 2, but then it's negative, so minus negative 1/2 or plus 1/2. You guys okay with that? If I have negative 1 squared over 2, negative 1/2, but I have to subtract negative 1/2. So it's added, right? Plus 2 squared over 2 is 4 over 2, 2. Minus 0 squared over 2 is 0. So I have 1/2 plus 2, 4/2 gives me 5/2. the antiderivative of x.